welcome to the Mirza show. Not really. Julian's gonna hit me for that. Anyway, guys, we got a studio full of talent for you guys today. Hopefully, be able to ring in and ask a few questions and get some answers. I'm just gonna pass you over, and everyone can introduce themselves rather than me introduce and mess everything up. First.
Hello, my name is Dr. K. I'm a local GP, and I'm delighted to be invited to give my opinion on alternative medicine. And that's me. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Mohammed Shabbir. I live in Reading, and I've been interested in alternative and natural medicine for a number of years. Do a bit of research on various systems within that field.
Beautiful. And as ever, I'm Julian, joining Mirza on it. It is the Mirza show now. It is the Mirza show. We'll go with that. Hello to Barbara, if he's listening out in Sweden. Hope we're doing a good job without you. Mirza has kindly stepped in. So we're talking about alternative medicine, that is alternatives to the mainstream, normal, proper medicine, which Dr. K knows about and believes in. But Shabbir believes in all the other stuff, mumbo jumbo, witchcraft, and yeah. So we're going to see which is better, proper medicine that you get from the doctors, or I'm joking, of course. There's a broad spectrum of approaches to health, and one of the reasons we thought of this topic was because a good friend of mine who's into this stuff wanted to speak about it. We might be going to the phones with her, but I do think that people have a very kind of put a plaster on it. I've got a headache. Let me go get a paracetamol. I hear that in school a lot and work with young kids, but probably the kids are dehydrated. They've been having fizzy drinks all day or whatever. And if they had a more holistic approach to health and well-being, which Naz Ali knows all about, as he used to have a show devoted to it, they'll probably prevent the headaches and the kind of general ill feeling that many people kind of complained of. So if you've got any opinion on alternative medicine, if you've got a secret remedy that you like to use, maybe you, I don't know, there's lots of herbal remedies that people believe in, and we'll talk about that later. But if you want to get involved, anything on alternative medicine, whether you believe in it or you're dead against it, like Dr. K, 01189 660 382. Or if you've got a health problem, do not phone in. It's not that kind of show. But if you did, we couldn't stop you. Anyway, gentlemen.
Right. Can I just kind of kickstart this?
Go on,
I've got an issue at home.
Yeah, okay.
My wife was the
friend of yours has a problem.
My wife got H. pylori, and she went to the GP. GP gave her antibiotics, cluster bombed the inside. Now she's got ulcers in her stomach. Okay, from that, what we did, we sort of like just about turned every stone that we could think of. So had Western, went to the herbalist, went to the GP, went to acupuncture, YouTube, Google, everything. And as it stands at present, nothing seems to be working. Not the Western herbal stuff, which was pretty much rubbish. I don't think, no disrespect to anybody, but didn't even know. If we hadn't had the privilege of having science here, as in a camera going down to the stomach and finding out that the ulcers are there, I think we'd still be having a guessing game and trying to resolve it with everything else other than, but basically also religious stuff, everything that you can think of, black seed oil, prayers, the lot. Nothing seems to work. So please, can I have your take on it one by one, guys?
Sure, thank you very much, Mirza. So as a GP, this is something we see often. It's called dyspepsia, the actual symptom of having kind of heartburn, if you like, in more kind of lay terms. And we do know that I think it's about 50% of the population has this bug H. pylori. Of people who have dyspepsia, it's about 90%. So we think there's a link between H. pylori and this symptom. I might be wrong with my stats, but it's something like that. So it's not 100% proven. So what we do is we bash it with antacids and antibiotics, and for a week it's called triple therapy. if that doesn't work, then there might be other methods such as what we call an OGD, which is basically a camera down the top end. Your point, Mirza, that really it's only kind of, if you like, Western medicine that helped in the end, is absolutely right. I mean, I'm not going to pry to find out what this person had, but if she had an ulcer there, then really that needs high dose antacids. Having said that, I'm a strong believer, even though Jules has kind of billed me as someone dead against alternative medicine. That's not true. And as a GP, one of the things I like about general practice, now I'm actually doubly qualified. I've got the hospital exams but I moved over to GP. So I kind of sit on both sides of the fence. Really.
Where did you qualify?
It's not relevant, but Oxford University, of course.
Oxford University.
Absolutely.
Good university. Sorry.
Oxford graduate. And very, very, very lucky for that. But to be honest, medical schools are all the same. It's not like 100 years ago but anyway, where was I? I've lost my train of thought. H. pylori, yeah. In GP, when you come from hospital medicine, the great thing about it is that you have a real holistic approach. So actually, you're taught to teach people to kind of stay off citrus fruits, alcohol, spicy foods, that sort of thing. And so prevention is always better than cure. So whilst, yes, sometimes you do need a camera down your throat, we do, some might call it alternative medicine, not just throwing antacids at people.
Dr. K.
Yeah.
Just to clear up matter, antacid, that's acid from ants, isn't it?
It's
the other question. Someone said to me recently, and they've got a kind of alternative medicine approach and opinion. Our bodies are too acidic, and we need to create an alkaline situation within the body. Is there truth in that?
There is definitely.
Is that a theory? There is a mumbo jumbo.
There is a, if you like to call it mumbo jumbo, there is a, I would say, alternative medicine theory that I have to admit I don't know a lot about, and I need to look into it. Alkalizing foods that alkalize us are good for us. For example, lemon, even though it's acidic itself, it has an alkalizing effect on the body, and that's meant to be good for us. But this is where the discussion will probably go.
Right.
And of course, Shabbir will be able to kind of pitch in as well. But the problem with a lot of this alternative medicine stuff, for example, the alkalizing thing, you can actually spend £2,000 or £3,000, I believe, on a machine that alkalizes water. So you don't just add alkaline to the water to make it.
The lemon one, you don't have to spend a lot on that.
Right. Well, exactly. So this is the thing. So what's actually, there's no scientific evidence that this alkaline water helps at all. But in terms of proper Western scientific evidence, as far as I'm concerned, but I've had people try to sell me this machine that costs £2,000,
Japanese,
and I don't know where it's from. But apparently it alkalizes the water in a way different to if you were to raise the pH of it in some other way. And apparently it cures loads of diseases. Now, I've never seen any evidence that it does. Now, that to me is where alternative medicine falls into the hands of con men. And that's one of the big dangers of alternative medicine.
We'll come back to that, because that's a big point, the con men out there. But
Shabbir, your take on that, because obviously I've taken stuff off you to try out, and the herbalist side, that's obviously where you are with that. Where do you stand with this?
Any damage done to the body doesn't happen in a day. It happens over time, and what I see as a general trend is that our lifestyles contribute toward that. Our nutrition is not what it used to be. The big thing about, our food has a lot of artificial additives in it. There's no regulation. There's nothing against that. So you ingest that every day, and that we live on what we eat. Our bodies are nourished not by chemicals, really. Our body needs earthly nutrition from plants. So there's that, and there's even our water is condemned. So we all in a way kind of quite toxic. So in simple terms, alternative medicine, is a huge field. So you need to break it down into simple terms for the lay people, and it's that we are very toxic. So one of the things is you need to start detoxing, eating the right stuff, and that takes time. So it's taken you probably a long time to build up to that, and then this that is a bacteria or virus or whatever.
Bacteria.
H. pylori. Basically, it's the environment allows these things. They're there all the time, as far as I know. They're in your system, candida, etc. But once your environment it becomes weak with toxins, etc. Heavy metals. I mean, are contributing toward that. So all that the environment is now rife for these things to take over. And so you look at all that, like the conventional medicine, obviously it has some very useful stuff to kill the bacteria. Well, so does you have similar kind of plant remedies. Even garlic is a good antibiotic in a sense. It will go and clean up the system, kill a lot of bacteria, viruses. And then you've got other things. I mean, one of the things that our body actually needs is, for example, iodine, which is lacking quite seriously in most people. Iodine is a brilliant killer of pathogens, etc. Even when they operate on you, they put that on your body, but somehow nobody talks about that. Your body actually needs a certain amount of iodine, which used to be put in your salt, your bread, and that's been taken out for various reasons. So Daniel, can I ask you a question? Did you know, ask your father what that was? What was the contents in it? No, you're not allowed.
I don't want to speak to him anymore.
Oh, okay. But a lot of children were, or younger people were given kind of, home remedies in those days, and a lot of them were quite good. They were often from plants and.
Right, is that,
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Daniel.
Why do you say castor oil in that tone? It has a medicinal property. It's proven.
Dan, have you gone?
Kills
Daniel,
worms.
okay. Daniel, we're going to make room for the next call. The doctor has very short time.
Thank you, Dr. K.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Daniel.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was Daniel there. I had a friend, not my dad, but a friend's dad used to give his kids some stuff out, some black stuff on a spoon, and say it was good for them. So that did give me kind of what's the word? I remember something like that. Yeah, and I tried it once. Well, we go to another call then. Let's see who this is on line 5. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Let Me Tell You Sundays. You're through to the doctor. Hello.
Yeah. Hey, Julian. How are you?
Is that Imran?
Yeah, it's me, first.
Welcome, bro. Speak up. We've got low levels on the phone, dude. Speak right into the phone.
Okay.
And welcome back to the airwaves. We're glad to have you back.
Good for you.
How is your uncle doing?
Yeah, he's okay. He's all right. He's still medication. Like, he's got bad sugar, but...
He's got bad sugar.
Yeah.
Dr. K, what should someone do if they've got bad sugar?
Try and substitute it for good sugar. I believe if you go to Asda, they have a kind of a better range of sugar from the top shelf normally. And if you kind of try and have that, and the good, it should flush out the bad sugar from. Sorry, I'm joking.
It's diabetes.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. Of course it is. And this is actually a very good point, because GPs, we do come across this a lot of the time. So lay speak for lay terms for conditions are that people will say bad sugar rather than diabetes, and I just wanted to kind of sidestep this question just for a second. Just something that Shabbir said. He was talking about medicine and how the tests aren't 100% all of the time, and that's absolutely right. And my degree, my first degree, is actually a master of. That's right. It's actually a Bachelor of Arts and a Master of Arts. And the reason is because medicine has always been seen as an art. And so that, Shabbir, you're absolutely right that medicine is very much about experience and not just about numbers. And that's a very important point. So that joke I made about, you say bad sugar and I call it, it's actually diabetes. That's very, very, very topical here. But sorry, yeah, so he's got diabetes. Was that right?
Yeah, diabetes, yeah.
Great. Well, good.
And there's no cure for it, as far as I know, in allopathic medicine.
It has like one vision of his eye, he can't see properly, and like his legs not that good for walking as well.
But it's manageable, right? You can manage it.
It's one of those things that's not curable as such, but it's manageable. And there are several sorts of diabetes. The most common one, probably, I would guess in his case, is probably diabetes, what we call diabetes type 2. And the trouble with the diabetes is it raises your blood sugar, and in doing so, the raised blood sugar somehow affects the small and large blood vessels in the body, and the small blood vessels are found around nerves, so you might get kind of numbness around your feet and that sort of thing, and in the eyes, so you get blindness or altered vision, which is what your dad has, and also around the kidneys, so the kidneys can mess up. So it sounds like he's got symptoms of diabetes. So I wish him the best.
Lastly, Shabbir, is there any alternative medicine not in the mainstream that you would recommend for diabetes?
For diabetes, again, it's it is a whole holistic approach. You look at your nutrition, your state of mind, what sort of exercise you're doing, your job. I mean, that can give you a lot of illnesses. So, it's creating that environment where people are, doing the right kind of things, a number of things like water, quality of water, as I said before, it's pretty bad. So, there's chlorine, which is, doctor might correct me, I think it's a toxin to, if it's taken high enough degrees. Some authorities put fluoride, which is a known poison, and they say it's good for your teeth. But, the research says it doesn't even improve your teeth. So there's a whole host of things that are, that weren't around 50, 60, 100 years ago, I'm afraid. And we need to do our homework. We've been bombarded by all kinds from all sides. Even I would say, we've got vaccines now being promoted and given to as soon as a baby's born. 20 years ago, it's probably about 3, 4, I don't know, nice double.
Imran, thank you very much for your call.
And can I make a very important point? This is my belief, and this is a lot of people's belief, and to me, it's a very sound belief. Sorry? Say that again?
Julian?
Yes, Imran.
Yeah, I really said hello.
Oh yeah, regards to you, brother. Absolutely.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
He's on night shift now.
He's working hard.
Yeah.
Send him my best to him and the family.
Right.
Okay, Imran, we're going to continue with your question, but we're going to free up the airwaves for the next caller. Thank you very much for calling.
Right.
Shabbir will continue with that point that you brought up. Sorry, Shabbir, to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Basically, that our bodies are made as a self-correcting, self-regulating, being. So we should be really working with the body, and not against it, not bombarding it with things that it doesn't necessarily recognize or agree with, and so again, nutrition, lifestyle, exercise, breathing. Who breathes correctly? Babies. The only people who breathe correctly these days are babies, which is from the bottom.
You have to slap them once to get them to start. After that, they're fine, right?
Yeah. So that balances your system all the time. If you're breathing correctly, your nervous system is regulated, is calmed down. But the lifestyle is so hectic that.
Can I just say something on that, please? Sorry.
Mirza.
Being a member of the Asian community, I do know our people, and we have a very blasé attitude towards anything that. I'm someone who diabetes. Now you'll be told to sort of do a little bit of exercise to control, your diabetes. You're supposed to control your diet and everything. What do? We go around eating laddus, jalebis, anything that's horribly, disgustingly sweet, that's gonna not just irritate it, but send the scale sky high. And exercise. We don't exercise. We don't believe in exercise. So how do you expect to be cured?
Good point.
Absolutely, very good point. Very good points by Shabbir as well about working with our bodies, and that's Mirza, what you're saying. That if you and this is what the thing I was trying to say earlier, that GPs, we are focusing so much more on the holistic care. My patients will know that I often say to them, I hate medication. Despite being a doctor, I hate just throwing drugs at a problem. That's not, they're there as a last resort. The camera down, whoever it was, his throat is a last resort. It's a horrible thing to have done. But sometimes you need a last resort, and it should be a last resort. And throwing medication at diabetes should be a last resort. And in fact, getting diabetes should be a last resort in the first place. And these kind of holistic approaches, like you're talking about, Shabbir, for example, exercise, eating the right things, and that's what you're saying, Mirza, is absolutely vital. And GPs are trying to educate people. Some do more than others, and I'm a big fan of educating people. Now, what you said about Asians and diabetes, it is a fact that South Asians do have more diabetes than Caucasian people. I'm not a diabetes specialist, so I can't say for sure, but to my knowledge, it's not 100% clear exactly why this is. There are various theories, but certainly one of those theories is that diet is a lot of, is it ghee that is used in some, so really, sugars?
Not right.
Okay.
Ghee is used less now than it used to be.
Okay, fine.
It's oil, vegetable oil.
And the other thing is,
this is the real culprit.
right, okay. And the other thing,
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, ghee traditionally has been used, and it is far better than vegetable oil.
Okay.
Processed vegetable oils, and
Oh.
that's a fact. You know, as soon as you heat these oils, so much research has been done. As soon as you heat these vegetable oils, which were promoted when we came from Pakistan, everybody was cooking with the butter, and you know, in the 80s they said no, butter is got too much cholesterol, causes a lot of cholesterol and fat. So let's switch over to a cheaper alternative, which is the oils. But oils have directly been linked to a lot of health issues.
Absolutely.
They're very cheap as well.
I had a question, I think, in light of the diabetes issue that came up.
Sure.
Question from Muslim. Is the glycosylation in the eyeballs what causes the blindness?
Glycosylation.
I probably can't read it, or he
So
can't spell it.
it's basically the sugaring of it. Well, I have to admit, if I don't know, I'll say I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but what we do know is that it affects the large blood vessels and the smaller blood vessels, and the smaller blood vessels are found in the kidneys, the nerves, and in the retina. And whether it's a glycosylation of the capillaries in the retina that blocks them up, I genuinely don't know. I probably will have done at some stage, but if medicine knows it, I certainly don't.
Can I say the carbohydrates obviously are sugar producing thing, and we do eat a lot of carbohydrates, and that's given.
Oh, I see. So the Asian,
yes,
right?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
right. And I think population in general.
That's right. Carbs, and that's the big drive in diabetes now, is to cut down carbs. So simple carbs are sugars. So obviously you're not meant to have sugars if you're diabetic, but complex carbs, so starches and things, are broken down into simple carbs, into glucose, by the body. So so cutting down carbs. And the other thing, Mirza, you were saying, was exercise, and that's, you know, that I find that quite true. I mean, I'm. You know, so my wife is British, and you know, she makes these on the point of food, she makes these roasts and these things that have almost zero oil in, very, very healthy meat and veg, and I compare that to kind of Asian friends, and there does seem to be oil and a lot of carbs in there, but also exercise is something. Although nowadays you do see a lot more Asian people jogging on the streets, but certainly that wasn't the case.
Some of the younger generation.
That's right. Yeah.
But also you know, when you get very ill, you are going to do what the doctor says.
Yeah.
We go to another caller. Hello, caller.
Hello.
Hello, welcome to Let Me Tell You Sundays. You're through to the doctor, Dr. K, and Shabbir, and myself, and Mirza. It's a busy, packed studio. Who's this?
I'm Khulud. I'm calling from Palestine.
Fantastic. Khulud calling from Palestine. Long distance phone call. You're through to the doctor. How is your health, Khulud?
How's my health?
Yes.
I'm very good.
And how is the health of the people in Palestine?
First of all, Julian, I have to say Assalamu alaikum. Then first you have to excuse me for my bad English.
It's very good.
We hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so I'm gonna speak about alternative medicine here in Palestine, because we use it too much.
Too much?
Yeah, we use it too much, and like we use, for example, when we have flu, like sage leaves or chamomile or anise for flu, or if we have
chamomile and sage for
cold
flu, yeah?
Yeah, yes, and it is very good.
What about mint tea? They drink this a lot, right? Is it good?
Yeah, it's very good.
Okay. But do you believe these really work? Why don't doctors? Prescribe it?
especially Julian, the sage leaves.
Okay.
I think here they use it in medicine also.
Yeah. It's one of the
Shabbir's agreed.
herbal remedies. Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Dr.
Yes,
K,
sage,
is there anything to be said for sage?
Very useful. And also the chamomile and the anise, they use it also in medicine.
yes, definitely.
Yes.
It's herbal remedy, isn't it? Well recognized. Yeah. Sage.
And for ladies, they can for their beauty, they can use, for example, parsley water to clean their faces. Yes, it's very natural and it's very good.
And very cheap.
Also, and we also use honey. We use honey in masks, like, for example, carrot masks and ginger with honey. And it is mentioned in Quran, the honey, you know.
Yes.
It's very useful.
Yeah. As long as it's wild honey. That's
Yes.
There's a big difference
And
between.
here in Palestine, we have
They have wild honey back in Palestine. Yes.
Yes.
And not to mention, not to forget olives, beautiful olives from Palestine.
Yeah, olives.
Very healing.
Yes, older people here used to drink olive oil.
Yes.
They drink it like one cup. They drink it all. They are healthy and they are 90 or 100 years old.
Can I say one of the things I definitely know, olive oil is very good on the liver, cleanses the liver, and so many other things, but that's coming to my mind. But the Mediterranean people use a lot of oil on salads, olive oil, and their hearts are less heart attacks in those countries that use olive oil.
Yes, olive oil.
Especially drinking it is the best way.
Yes,
raw.
Here we use olive oil in everything, like for hair, for face, for everything. Yes, for massaging, also massage.
It's amazing tree, and they're thousands of years old as well. Some of them.
Yeah, and it is mentioned in Quran also.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
So chamomile, sage, olive oil,
and mint. Don't forget mint tea.
Mint, yes.
Mint tea, yes.
Good for.
Thank you very much. I'm going to write all those down and buy them tomorrow.
I agree with all of those as a doctor, so absolutely fine.
Agreed, totally. The mainstream doctor agrees with the alternative.
It's nice to talk to you all.
To speak to you.
Likewise.
And we send our best wishes to you and all of
my greetings from Palestine.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Good night. Bye.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.
Making a long distance call from Palestine, that's always nice to link up with other parts of the world, especially where a place like Palestine, where people have died because they were prevented from getting medical attention. It's good to know that people are taking a holistic approach to health. And Dr. K, agreed with all the alternatives? Absolutely. Several things mentioned there were especially olive oil. I mean, medicine has accepted, obviously, that olive oil is good. And it has to be, remembered that we do suggest these things. As a GP, I do suggest all sorts of things like this. Certainly, someone comes in with a sore throat, honey and lemon. Someone has bloating, peppermints. Mint. These sorts of things are, chamomile. We do recommend these things. It's not like we're on different sides of, we're in different camps here. That's fine. I think my main issue is when people say they say alternative medicine, which is what the title of this show is, as opposed to complementary medicine. Now, I understand alternative is, the alternative to Western medicine, and that's fine. But if you see it more in terms of complementary medicine, so when there's, Western medicine, then you use it, then that's fine. But if you say, we're not going to use Western medicine, we're only going to use that, then that's when you have troubles. However, Khulud was mentioning the flu, and there is no cure for it, so absolutely. Hello, caller. We go to another call, line 5. You're live. Who is this?
Hello, is that me?
Yeah, you're live on air.
Hello, brother Julian. It's Azad. Do you remember me?
Azad, welcome back to the airways. We haven't heard from you for about a year.
I know, brother. I know. It's been a long time, brother.
Have you still got your Polaroid collection?
Bob, don't mention the Polaroid
Oh, sorry.
collection. That's hidden right in the back of the corner of my bed, just for nostalgic reasons.
Wow.
You understand?
Welcome back to the Airways, guys. This is Azad, a long-time listener, and a long time ago he was a caller. Welcome back. What's your take on all this alternative medicine?
Well,
have you ever taken any yourself?
Is it what? Sorry.
Have you ever taken any yourself?
I don't know. I don't really know what counts as alternative and like regular. And
there's a fine line between the two.
Yeah, I mean, I take all sorts of things. Like nothing dodgy, you get me. But like, you know, someone said, you know, like taking, what are they called, the pine cones and mashing them up and putting them in tea and stuff. It tasted rubbish and it probably made me worse. But I don't know. Yeah, well, I don't know. But I wanted to ask Dr. K something about it, right? Because I mean, you know, over the last year I've not been doing much. I even actually thought of going into medicine because I was looking for work, but you know, because I did geography at GCSE and stuff, and you know,
that's all you need, a GCSE in geography, and you're
but you're talking about, you know, how the environment affects your health. So I thought those things would go together, but I don't know, it didn't work out. But so you got all these massive pharmaceutical companies, right? Like you got like GlaxoSmithKline and Pfizer and Lucozade and all these, right? And obviously they have a lot of money. Like I heard some of the managing directors, they literally get hundreds and hundreds of pounds, right?
Millions.
Like even billions, literally.
Squillion.
So yeah, squillion even. I don't know. I haven't seen the statistics, but so. And obviously some of that money comes from the NHS who pay them for stuff, right? And that NHS money comes from the hard-earned tax money of people like, well, not me because I don't really pay tax, but lots of my friends, right? Who actually, even some of my friends, I can't see. My parents, it comes from their hard-earned tax money, right?
Sure.
So how do we know that they aren't like fiddling in the system? They're like cheating a bit with their results and everything. How do we know?
Well, I'll tell you my take on it as a doctor, and I have to be careful. I am fiercely against corporations, large corporations, and you know, so actually I'm a lefty in that sense. And these big pharmaceutical companies are big corporations, and we have to remember that's what they are. Having said that, you know, the drugs do work, and so on the one hand, and it does cost a lot of money to produce drugs. The Tufts Center for Study of Drug Development did a study in America.
Literally squillions.
And they found, well, not literally squillions, but every drug costs on average about $2.6 billion to produce. And if you think
each drug,
every compound, absolutely every compound, that's right. And if you think that every drug has got to go through 4 phases of trials, the preclinical trials on animals, phase 1 on a small number of people, phase 2 to check the safety, and phase 3, which is normally large double-blind randomized controlled trials of thousands of people, that takes years, and that's after they've actually developed it, and that takes, you know, they've got to pay for the overheads and the scientists to develop it. So actually, you know, when these companies, you know, the only way that these companies can make money and sustain themselves is to charge a lot of money for these drugs, and that's just the financial reality of producing drugs. Now, so on the one hand, they are big, bad corporations like any corporation. On the other hand, these drugs need to be produced, and they only have patents for a limited time. So once the drug goes off patent, they can't then charge £100 per drug. They have to then charge, you know, anyone can make it, and then you charge pennies. So yes, it is at a cost to the NHS, and that is why the NHS is, that's part of the reason the NHS is struggling, is because the cost of drugs is so high.
A point on that issue, Dr. K, raised by Mohsin, GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, got caught bribing people to buy their products in China.
Okay, well, look, I can't comment on that. As I say, corporations are corporations, and any system built to make money, you know, is going to have flaws in it. But that is the best system that we have, and you know, it does work. But you know, I can't comment much more than that.
Oh, that's fair.
It's not black and white. They're all bad or they're all good. Sorry?
When the patent goes out, it literally goes from squillions to just a few pennies.
Pretty much, yeah. So you have drugs.
All you need to do is just basically just write it out and
Absolutely.
like, on, and
And that's
you
what
can
we
get
do.
it for cheap.
That's what we do in the NHS as GPs. We wait, you know, so when a drug comes out, it's new. If it's the only one, then that's the one we prescribe, but we do it within reason. But then when the patent runs out and it becomes cheaper, all of a sudden, you know, so we go for, and these drug companies, they're very clever. They have a drug and they have a patent and they charge a lot of money for it. And then the patent runs out. So then they bring out the same drug and they change just one bit of the compound. Just, you know, a carbon will be on another, sorry, an OH, you know, oxygen, hydrogen will be on another carbon kind of molecule. And so then technically they could, you know, so they do dirty tricks like that. And you know, that's the reality of the situation, I'm afraid. That's the world we live in. But they do produce good drugs.
Oh, so it's like if you buy a new car, right? Then there's no point buying a new BMW, because if you wait a couple of years, you can get it second hand for a really good deal.
That's right.
Yeah, I just want to make one point. You know, my mind kind of can't comprehend that some of the prices they charge for medicines, especially for serious diseases, you know, £1,000 for a treatment. And sometimes the local National Health Service can't even afford to give it to some individuals. Now, even then, you know, you don't mind if these medicines are curing somebody at a you know, higher rate, or they're doing, you know, some good, so you know that you are actually cured. But often you have to take these medicines for a long time, and sometimes for life. So that's my sort of bone with that, and I know for a fact that because they're so expensive, the National Health Service is really struggling, you know, to pay the bill.
That's right.
You know, and so they don't often have a choice because the pressure is so.
One way of looking at it is that it is expensive to create drugs.
Yeah.
And therefore we are paying for those scientists to create these drugs, and therefore it's, you know, rather than, oh, look at the big bad pharmaceutical companies, because these scientists, I've got friends who are scientists who work in a lab, you know, 12 hours a day. They don't get paid a lot of money at all, these poor guys. And you know, anyway, yeah, sorry.
So, Azad, any further questions for Dr. K or Shabbir before we let you go, sir?
Maybe just one thing really quickly, because I've always been a bit shy to talk about it with my own GP. But
well, you're live on radio, go for it.
Sticks out a little bit, and I've seen from videos of people on TV and the internet that most belly buttons go in. Is it bad that it sticks out, or is that like fine?
I would try some olive oil.
Yeah, try some olive oil.
That's a joke. Sorry.
all
the best.
Azad,
is that alternative, or is
very much. Yeah, that's the alternative.
Okay, I'll give it a go, but I'll let you know.
I won't worry about it.
Yeah, don't stress. Azad, brilliant to have you back.
Cheers, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Azad.
Bye.
Yeah, Azad then. Sharing his problems. Brilliant. I've got another question from Mohsin. Is being too hygienic making the West more prone to allergies? Could that be true? Shabbir saying no.
I don't think so. Hygiene is a good thing. It's just your immune system has been bombarded by lots of things, and ultimately, I mean, there's another thing that to mention, that you know, your immune system can cope with well, pretty much whatever you throw at it if it's functioning well.
Whatever you want to throw at it,
you know, in terms of illnesses.
Okay, so
viruses, bacteria, allergens.
Yeah,
you know. The body is so complex. It's processing millions and billions of bits of information. It's trying to, but ultimately, it's just trying to get you back to homeostasis. Is that word?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's always doing that. So allergies are another growing thing, isn't it? A lot more people have allergies.
I would actually, with respect, disagree based on. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and that, you know, the body is a complex thing, but actually there was a study done, and I don't have the details. It's not my profession, but 100%. I'm not an allergy specialist, but there was a study done that showed that children who aren't given peanuts, as you know, at a young age, they have a higher rate of peanut allergy. So I know it's slightly different from hygiene, but there is definitely some evidence there that if you kind of withhold certain things because you think, oh, my child might be allergic to peanuts, then they will then get allergies. So you could extend that and say, well, perhaps if we're being too hygienic to our children, that actually they need to they need to have these antigens to develop, otherwise they'll become sensitive to it.
But wasn't that the kind of mindset of any parent 50 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago? Some of them will give you things, some of them don't. Why is it that, more children are, to an extent that if you bring some item close to them, they react. I think anaphylactic shocks and all that. They're carrying these, little shots because the body, it needs nutrition, needs amino acid, it needs the minerals, the vitamin. Your soil is depleted by over 50%. Selenium is almost gone from the soils.
Is it an issue that these days, we wrap kids up in cotton wool, we don't let them play in the street, we don't let them graze their knee, and they're not exposed to any of the dangers or the toxins?
I believe it is. I believe it is.
Mohsin mentions your immune system needs to be in contact with antigens to become stronger.
I agree.
But if you don't give it antigens, then it won't be stimulated.
I'd agree with
your
him.
system can't fight then? Why is it weak?
How do you become?
And what is it genetically? They measured 300 babies in America, newly born babies. You can check on the YouTube. 300 babies. They had 10 babies, and big difference. 10 babies, and 300 toxins were measured as soon as they are born. 300 toxins were within their body. They just picked up 10 babies.
That's right. We encounter lots of antigens.
Who passes that on to them? They haven't acquired it in a day or two of their life. It's the mother. The mother is contaminated. She's going to pass it on.
Well, it is a newborn baby. I haven't seen that study yet, so I can't comment on it. Certainly, our body. I mean, certainly the anti-vaxxers, those who are against vaccines, will, and that's a whole other topic. I have to say, I'm fiercely pro-vaccine, and I categorically state that not giving vaccines to your children is dangerous. And so anyone listening to this, please understand that the medical point of view is you must give vaccines to your children. Otherwise, you are not just putting your child's life at risk; you are putting the whole community at risk. But one of the arguments that people, that anti-vaxxers will say, is that our bodies can't take lots of antigens in one go, and that's actually not true. We can take up to about 10,000 at one time. And vaccines have nowhere near that amount. So yeah, we are, our bodies, as you say, are complex things, Shabbir, and we're capable of taking lots in at a time. And I think, putting our kids in wrapping them up as babies probably isn't the right thing. But that's.
I think it was okay regarding the vaccinations. That swine flu vaccination that they're giving out was about 4 years ago. I didn't let my kids have them. Now, you sort of are adamant that they should have these vaccinations, and I didn't, and I don't think they should. So, why would you say that they should? And
okay. Why do you think they shouldn't?
Well, actually, vaccinations haven't existed until the last 100 years maximum.
True, and loads of people used to die, and now they don't.
Die of other things.
I mean, how many died?
But there are a lot of kids are being, not necessarily dying, but being damaged by over-vaccination. I mean, this is a sort of ongoing trend now, more and more. And so if you want to do some real research on it,
well, that's my job, so I have,
into vaccinations. From both sides, have a balanced kind of. I would, wouldn't touch vaccinations with the body, because I believe in the inherent construction by not us, by the Almighty, in the perfect body that we have to fight off. All we need is the tools that the body requires, and you can forever keep trying to save us and give them this and give them that. But there's no evidence that, in fact, one of the studies is saying, and I know you definitely disagree with me, but this is something you can't hide under the carpet. You need to look at it. Is that since the vaccinations have come in more and more, the MMR, the rate of autism in the UK and US, you know, just see why is it
categorically false. I'm sorry, Shabbir, and this is a very dangerous thing that's being spread, not by you, but I understand people are spreading it, and you know, you're reading it. That even anti-vaxxers, even people who are, you know, die-hard anti-vaxxers, those who are against vaccines. So we call them anti-vaxxers. They call themselves anti-vaxxers, I think. Some people might call them other things. Even anti-vaxxers don't use the autism argument anymore. Autism, plenty do.
Study all the time.
Plenty do, but you know,
that one has been disproved.
That one has categorically. So Wakefield, a doctor, produced a study of, I think, 12 people, and thought, you know, and tried to produce a link between MMR and autism, and inflammatory bowel disease as well. And he's been struck off because he's falsified evidence, and we don't even need to go into that.
Now,
Anyone can that's categorically wrong. And there have, sorry, can I say that there have been many studies to look into this, independent studies from around the world that have found that there's absolutely zero link. And as I say, as a result, even anti-vaxxers.
I think we can revisit this.
Absolutely. I'll be very happy to.
Evidence,
but,
you know, I can say many.
Don't get me wrong. Vaccine, there are problems with vaccines. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. But you know, but overall they are by far beneficial, and it is dangerous to suggest, you know, to bandy about things like, oh, you know, vaccines cause MMR. MMR causes autism is just plain wrong.
Can I just qualify that? Now they're saying it doesn't necessarily, the vaccines are not the thing that actually causes autism, but you know, there's an inherent weakness in some children, and this is slightly more stress on the body, which can take you away. I mean, that's my understanding. I'm not gonna, you know, argue. You got your stance, and I got.
You mentioned something
interesting. I know plenty of people who, soon as they had, hundreds of cases I've come. Soon as they had the vaccine, the child was thriving, fine.
Yeah.
2 weeks after the vaccination, a week after.
Interesting, isn't it?
What happened?
Well, it's interesting because it's interesting.
Can't hide away.
Okay, so there's your anecdotal evidence that there are plenty of people that, you know, that, you know, they were thriving and then they had the vaccines and all of a sudden they're poorly. But see, this is the difference. And you know, I'm very grateful that oneummahfm, a Muslim radio station, fantastic radio station, is allowing, you know, is inviting non-Muslims like Jules and myself here, and I think that's fantastic. And you mentioned the Almighty, and I think, you know, Allah, peace be upon him, or peace be upon Muhammad? Praise be upon him. Okay. One of the things, I have a lot of respect for Islam, even though I'm not a Muslim, but one of the things that, you know, from my understanding, is that Muhammad, peace be upon him, praise be upon him, taught humanity is the importance of science. And in fact, we only have science in the West. Any historian will tell you that these microphones we're using, this radio system we're using, the whole of science we have in the West has come about because of the Renaissance, and that was massively influenced by Islam. The first universities in the world were from Islam, and that has come from the Quran. That has come from belief in the Almighty. So science is because of Islam, pretty much. So I find it interesting that you say, oh, well, you know, I believe in the Almighty, therefore I don't believe in vaccines. Whereas actually, it's scientists that have developed vaccines, and the scientists got their knowledge because of the impetus of Muhammad's great revelation to humanity.
Why is it that, you know, the science which has money linked to it is the one that is promoted, and some scientists or doctors go out of the mainstream and they're getting good results, and all of a sudden they become quacks. And there are so many, Dr. Brzezinski, brilliant, you know, cancer doctor in America, been prosecuted so many times because he doesn't fit in the box. And a true scientist will always give a chance to something new. They're searching for the truth.
I'll be the first.
True science. Now, why is it that these guys are just, you know, persecuted and say, oh, well, you know, your science is flawed because it doesn't fit in our way of
doing the science or our model of science. Science, and ultimately, what we're looking for, we're looking for cure. We're not looking for these
not treatment, but cure.
We're looking for people to get better, and any doctor who does not have that, have that in their mind. And secondly, the one who doesn't have the Hippocratic injunction of do no harm. And I see, this medicine that, we were saying is brilliant. I actually see people, they're bag full of, they take it in the morning, take it in the afternoon, and I see them becoming worse and worse. So where are the results?
So
billions are spent on what?
Just to clarify, so you, Shabbir, I haven't asked what your profession is. So you are seeing people physically. You've actually seen people take medicine and get worse. And so and how many? 100%. So what do you think a scientific study is? So is it some guy seeing a few people, or is it actually? So these medicines are put under, as I say, 4 phases of trials. Where you have double-blind, randomized controlled trials where people are overall, there are side effects and there are problems, absolutely right, but overall there is a benefit.
4 phases, and then they start withdrawing the same medicine which was declared.
That's right, because
safe. 4 phases, billions spent, and then you get people like thalidomide.
Sometimes
you get medicines recalled.
Absolutely. So there are sometimes mistakes, because
what I'm saying is,
so you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No, I mean I'm not doing that. But what I'm saying is, where this model of science, we lost the real reason is we want to see people get better. We want people to get cured. We want people to get healthy. So
okay, so forget the science. That's not making people better.
No, forget the science where it doesn't make people. Of course. Why is the doctor for there?
Okay.
Honestly, I go to the doctor and he comes up with the 4 trials. I'm a sick person. I want to get better. Is the doctor making me better?
One thing I will agree with.
Or is he going to say there's no cure for a cold, there's no cure for arthritis, there's no cure for diabetes, you need to take for the rest of your life?
One of the problems that
what sort of
one of the problems
are
that
we
I agree, Shabbir.
I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit.
I'll be quick.
Dr. K is a lovely man, and he talks a lot of sense. But here, it's not about talking sense. It's about getting people well.
Okay, so you would like a system. So one of the problems that GPs have, and the stresses that we have every day, day in, day out, one of the millions of stresses that we have is that people expect us to be magicians. They come in, I've got this cough, I've had a cough for 4 days and I want it to go away. And I say, well, there's nothing. And they'll often say, oh, but what about antibiotics? Well, no, antibiotics don't work on a virus. You should know that. No, okay, but I want it to go. Oh, I've got this arthritis in my knees, I want it to go away. Doctors aren't magicians. It's not,
Dr. K, this is the only profession where they pay for failure. I'm sorry to be a bit harsh.
Well, it depends.
But
what
you go to a car mechanic, he'll fix your car. You go to a plumber, he'll fix your plumbing.
Because as you say,
you walk away.
The plumbing
you
system.
go to a doctor and he says, sorry,
if I may, the plumbing system was created by mankind. The car was created by mankind, and therefore you'd expect mankind to be able to treat it. Yeah. Now, we would both agree that the human body was created by the Almighty, and he is a much greater tactician and engineer than we will ever be. So at the moment, I completely agree. Science isn't 100% there. GPs aren't 100%. Doctors aren't 100%, but we're pretty good. The only other point I wanted to make, and I know Mirza wanted to say something, I'm sorry, was that you said about science, why is science, someone goes against the fold, and I absolutely agree, actually. Science is like religion, in its worst sense. Science is very much, you try, I'm a big fan, you might have heard of people like Rupert Sheldrake, and Dean Radin. You've heard of these people. I'm huge fans of these people. So don't think that just because I'm a doctor,
And they talk about the other side.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm huge fans of these people, but it doesn't. I say don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Dean Radin also talks about the aura. Which doctor?
Absolutely.
He talks about the energy, body. And Rupert Sheldrake talks about all these kind of things.
Absolutely.
Which they're saying these are the fundamentals of life is not your even physical self.
And I believe in all of that. It might surprise you to know that
I know you
believe
do,
in all of that.
okay, and you're good. But a lot of doctors would say, what are you talking about?
But that doesn't mean that.
Occupancy points.
But you're absolutely, Shabbir, you're absolutely right. And I have to say, you're a breath of fresh air. You really are. And someone as clued up as you is a real, is a real gem, I think. And I believe in all of that. But one also, it's not just one or the other. It's not, I believe in Sheldrake, I believe in radin, I believe in alternative medicine, therefore I'm going to throw out Western medicine and throw out vaccines, for example. And I have both, so I see that, but I've also trained in the scientific Western way, or Western modern science. I say Western, as I say, science came from Islam, and
contributed.
So, massively contributed. That way of thinking, it's a way of thinking, and that came from Islam. In my understanding. So, but you have to see both sides. When, for example, there's 500,000 cases of measles every year in the USA, 1,000 deaths every year, vaccines come in, and that goes down to, just less than 100 deaths per year, purely because of vaccines. Then you've got to say, you don't need to be a scientist to say, well, there's an effect there. And to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, well, it's science, therefore it's bad. I'm going to believe in the Almighty instead, and believe in, dancing naked around a fire with face paint.
That's a faith.
Yeah. So you can have faith and also be scientific.
Of course.
Sorry.
100%.
Listen, I'm sorry, Karen.
Thank you, Mirza. Just to get a text from Mohsen, who's been brilliant on the text tonight. He has brought up a hadith from Sahih Bukhari. Abu Huraira narrates that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that there is no disease that Allah has created except that He has also created its remedy. And Mohsen's view is that remedies can also be vaccines and antibiotics. Smallpox was eradicated and polio was eradicated in America thanks to vaccines. So he's not against the vaccines either.
Can I just say something on that?
Go for it, mate.
Smallpox, for one, was taken over from Europe to the Red Indians. They had never heard of it, never seen it, never encountered it, didn't even have, even with the magic mushrooms and the funny cactus, right? They had no idea about smallpox.
Yeah.
So it's something that was taken to them from here. So if they went and
Americans
created something to counterattack it, then yeah, they should do, because they took it in the first place.
That's true. Very good point. Very good point. Mohsen mentions that smallpox was eradicated. No, we've done that. The last case of smallpox was in Somalia in 1977. Is that true, Doctor?
I honestly don't know.
Since then?
I know that the guy who invented the smallpox vaccine was a guy, I believe, Edward Jenner, I believe it was, and I think it was the year 1726. Before that, they used something called variolation. I believe it is, and variolation is what they'd actually do, and this was 1721. Lady Montagu in Turkey did actually what the people in China and Turkey and West Africa had been doing for hundreds of years before, and that's to give people, to inject actual smallpox, I think pus or something, from people with smallpox into them, and they found that people who that they did that to, actually they had a death rate of 1 in 100 as opposed to 1 in 3.
Was it was cowpox?
No. So this is variolation.
Oh, variolation
was smallpox. So they put smallpox into people, and only 1% only 1% of people died, as opposed to 33% of people. Edward Jenner then, and that's where the word variolation comes from. Variola comes from the Latin varius, which means spotted. Now, the word vaccination, actually, the vaccination, vacca, V-A-C-C-A, is Latin for cow. And that's what you're talking about. Edward Jenner took it one step further and took the cowpox virus, so not the smallpox, but the cowpox virus, and started putting that into people. And he found that 1 in a million would die from smallpox. So there was a massive. But even then, there were people, with respect, like Shabbir, at the time, saying, no, this is wrong, this is animal stuff, and they were quoting things from the Bible and so on and so forth, saying, this, you're putting animal stuff, this is against nature. Well, actually, if you go back to the root of it, I would agree
more with that than putting something created in the lab.
Well, what we're doing
for thousands of dollars or hundreds of millions.
Okay.
And what how
There
much
is no
does it
difference.
cost?
There is no difference. And the word vaccination comes directly from that. And this is an interesting point I wanted to make. I'm sorry for hijacking. Actually, if you think about it, one might call the process of putting a pus into someone else's skin alternative medicine. And a lot of what we see as Western quote unquote medicine now has actually come from what was at some point alternative. For example, quinine. You know, is it the American Indians or Red Indians? The American Indians would the native, or even Native Americans. Absolutely right.
What they've been called.
Yeah, that's right. So the Native Americans, sorry, I was wrong. The Native Americans, I do apologize. The Native Americans, they would chew the bark of trees, and we now know that's got quinine in it, and that can fight against malaria. Other things, we know that penicillin was a type of naturally occurring thing that we took. So there are all these things that at some stage is alternative, but then for some reason
Big
people
Pharma
have that
took it
issue.
over and called it
Absolutely, but they put it in a safe way, and this is the thing. When Big Pharma, and I'm not a fan of corporations, I'm not a fan of big. We could have a long chat. We'd agree with 99.9% of things. I'm sure. But what they do is they sanitize it. They put it through the trial. So, for example, when you have pharmaceutical that puts a drug in your face and says this is good for so and so, or this is a vaccine that will stop you getting measles, then you listen to that because it's gone through several stages of trials. It's had $2.6 billion of research plowed into it. But when you have a man from Ghana saying, I've got this black box that emits these radio waves, who do you trust? Now, you're a well-versed man, you know your stuff, but what about, that's the thing, you've got to be careful. And that's the difference between science. It's a method. It's a method of putting these things into a safe way that you can trust. And if it goes wrong, like thalidomide, there are people who are accountable for that. And that's the difference. Man in Ghana ain't accountable for nothing.
The man in Ghana is not medicating billions of people.
Something. My mother, she had arthritis. Kept going back to the GP. I don't know if it's because the pharmaceutical medicine free once you're on it for a while and everything. Took everything under the sun. Our house was like pharmacy. None of it worked. And then on the flip side, she took if she heard about some herbalist in Cardiff, because we got family down there, off my dad and her would go to the herbalist. She tried everything, but the pharmaceutical stuff made her kidneys pack up. So now, then from here,
there are side effects.
And on top of that, I was the one that used to keep going back to the doctors to get a repeat prescription. So she'd be on it for about, I don't know, 6 months. I'd go back and they said, oh, we don't do that anymore. We're taking that off the shelf. Then we can start a new one, and after a little while, the new one would be taken off the shelf. So what are people out there being used as guinea pigs then?
Well, partly, I'm afraid to say yes. Sorry, Shabbir.
No, you carry on.
Oh, sorry. Partly, I'm afraid to say yes. I mean, this is the reality of the situation. Again, it's this belief that people have. They probably give doctors too much respect. They think, and I think that's what it is. Oh, you're a doctor. All respect. You must be a magician. You must be either able to cure X, Y, and Z. Whereas actually all we can do is control a lot of diseases, or every drug you give us is good. One of the first things we do with elderly patients, one of the biggest problems with elderly patients is polypharmacy. That's having too many medications. And it gives them side effects. We give them water tablets. That gives them low sodium. It makes them dizzy and they fall. We give them too much blood pressure medication. They get something called postural hypotension, where they stand up, their blood pressure drops, they fall. They could break a hip and die. And it's our job. A lot of our job is actually fighting the medications that we or the hospital have prescribed in the first place. So, and that's why you need a qualified doctor to be on the ball. So I'm not sitting here pretending that drugs are all brilliant and, of course you need a qualified doctor to be on the ball. But overall, and this is the thing, with vaccines, for example, with all these studies, yes, there are some dangers to vaccines. I'm not going to pretend there aren't. Yes, there are some problems. Yes, some people get side effects. But this is the point of science. Science looks at thousands of people and they say, right, thousands of people who have the vaccines compared to thousands of people who don't. You add up the numbers, the benefit far, far outweighs the risk. And so again, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Can I just raise this point, Dr. K? To be honest, if science was done with honesty and betterment of us, mankind, it'd be fine. I think even a bad science would be not as destructive. But when it's done with the profit motive, and then there is a bit of pressure here, the Federal Drug administration or agency, FDA, American equivalent of, I don't know what in the UK is, but I read a lot about. You know, their head will leave and he'll join a a pharmaceutical company. It's like a revolving chair. This is a fact. You can check, and it's like a little club. So aren't they gonna? How hard are they gonna be on these companies, on their science even? And people have come out and whistleblown. I say, look, you think it's science and it's all billions spent because if they spend $1 million, they'll make 2 billion. That's how it is. So those numbers look big to us, and if they spend that much, they must have done a perfect job. But they have that money. It's one of the most profitable businesses on earth. Weapons and medicine.
What about when they say that really science, they just want to treat you, they don't really want to cure you? I mean, obviously, being a multi-billion-dollar industry, would there be any truth in that as well, though? I mean, because they really, what, the cases I'm coming across, they're not being cured, though. They're not being cured. At home, my wife's not being cured. She's being treated, but not being cured.
My wife's got actually rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah.
She dutifully has taken her methotrexate, prednisolone.
Horrible.
Yeah. She actually came off that because they started playing, and she had to have a liver test regularly on her liver. She came off that because it's too toxic. So they put her on steroids.
Oh no, okay.
Is it prednisolone?
Prednisolone. Yeah.
They put her on that, and then she's been on that a while, and then she goes to Pakistan, has a little fall, hip fractured in 4 places. So we went to the hospital.
Headphones on, gentlemen.
Sorry.
We will come back to that.
Sorry.
Because we go live now to a caller on line 1. Welcome.
Hello, is that
Who's this?
Julian?
You're through to Julian in the studio, as well as Dr. K, Shabbir, and Mirza. Who's this?
It's a friend of the show, Fartoku.
Afar Toku. Whack his volume up, Janssen. Afar, welcome back to the airwaves.
How are you, Julian?
I'm very well. Wow. How did your tour of the country go?
Yeah, well, it was cut short, but it was fine while it lasted.
Brilliant.
The highlight of which was being on your show, I would say.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Afar
Toku, gentleman, is a human rights author. He wrote the book Human Rights, Human Wrongs, and he's got. Where are you calling from, Afar?
Well, I don't want to disclose my location at the current moment, but rest assured it's in a less than civilized part of the world. But
understood. Well, what's your take on all this alternative medicine?
No. Hey, I give a lot of respect to any man of science. I take on a very scientific approach to my own work, being rigorous with my research and trying to get to the bottom of things. And I appreciate the conversation being had today. I wanted to ask the doctor in the studio if he knew or he could confirm or deny the existence of laboratories in Vermont, New Hampshire, which contain at least 12, about a dozen adolescent boys of Native American descent who've been experimented upon and have developed all kinds of physical attributes, extra limbs, extra stomachs, overgrowth of skin and teeth, growing fingernails where there are no fingers, etc. What can you say about that as a doctor?
I have to say that I've not heard of that.
Right. The thing is, because it's been it's been recorded that the most doctors say that, and if I was going to take a scientific approach, I would say that there's that in itself is suspicious. And I'm not saying that you're hiding anything.
You're causing controversy as always, Afar. Are you
well,
suggesting
no,
some
I'm
kind of
not
cover-up?
saying he necessarily knows anything, but it's certainly something that I think a man of science, a man of medicine should be curious about, because if this is happening in the name of science, surely this is something that it muddies your good work and your good name.
If that's happening, that's absolutely wrong. Every scientific trial that's done is put before a board of ethics and has to be approved before it's carried out. That to me would sound highly unethical, and I would be very surprised if it's happening. But if it is, certainly I shall research into these 12 adolescents who are growing extra stomachs. I shall look into it. Thank you for alerting me to it.
That's okay. I mean, hey, who's to say that my sources are correct? One of them is a staunch anti-medicine guy, so maybe he's got his reasons. But I thought, as part of my research, it was incumbent upon me to ask an actual doctor. So, I felt like this was the opportune moment to do so.
Afar, thank you very much for taking the opportunity, and as ever, all the best with.
Thank you, Afar.
With the books and the tours.
Yeah,
and the talks.
this conversation will be transcribed for my next publication. I hope you don't mind that.
It's an honor.
Absolutely fine.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Call again. Thank you. That's Afar Tokli there, the infamous author and researcher. And what's going on out in America sounds like some kind of area 52. If there 51 wasn't bad enough. Yes, right, gentlemen, a few texts to get through before we do what Barbara likes to do best, which is wrap up the show. A text from a beekeeper says the honeybees are dying. That's got to be bad news for everyone, hasn't it? I don't know if that's a medical issue or
to be or not to be, I'd say.
Did you see actually the first Muslim lady wearing hijab to become a beekeeper recently? She's all covered up. It's really good to see. Not really. But people are always banging on about the first so-and-so.
Okay.
Just a little joke there to lighten the mood on what's been quite a serious show.
Very good discussion.
I've really enjoyed it.
Very nice.
We haven't all agreed, but hey, you don't have to agree to get on.
Yeah.
And thank you to everyone who took part, everyone who contributed, anyone who phoned in. Trying to see if I've got anything else from Mohsin. He came up with so many texts tonight. He did mention Addenbrooke's Hospital. Have you heard of that, Dr. K?
Cambridge.
Okay. They're doing a peanut.
Second best university in the UK. Yeah.
After King's College. Addenbrooke's Hospital is doing a peanut study where they all introduced peanut in very small concentrations, and it's giving results where the patients can eat 1/10 of a peanut, which is a good progression. So if you really like peanuts and but you're allergic, Cambridge can help you eat 1/10 of a peanut. It's got to be a start, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's all fat anyway, so do they really need peanuts?
That's right. I mean, if you eat too much fat, it will make you fat, won't it? If you eating fat is what makes you fat.
Hey, in fact, some people dispute that. They say eating good fat can
really
help your metabolism.
There's a good fat, bad fat,
natural,
trans fat.
It's the carbohydrates that get converted into sugar.
It's all about calories. It's all about calories.
Yeah, calories. All right. Well, producer, with your permission, shall I wrap up the show? Just to say thank you to Shabbir and Dr. K. I really enjoyed this one. And Mirza,
likewise.
You're putting Bob out of a job. I really appreciate you doing. But it's good night from me, and it's over to Mirza to wrap it up. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good night.